We heard from the aforementioned Daniel Levy today. Of course, very rarely does he make public statements, but Stellini's sacking saw him publicly explain what his thought process was. Sunday's performance against Newcastle was wholly unacceptable. It was devastating to see. We can look at many reasons why it happened, and whilst myself, the board, the coaches and players must all take collective responsibility, ultimately the responsibility is mine. Cristian will leave his current role along with his coaching staff. Ryan Mason will take over head coach duties with immediate effect. Ryan knows the club and the players well. I met with the player committee today. The squad is determined to pull together to ensure the strongest possible finish to the season. We're all clear we need to deliver performances which earn you amazing support. Jules, the reason I chuckled was the fact that he's like, right, ultimately the responsibility is mine, Cristian's gone. That's it.
Yeah, that's how it works in Daniel Levy's world. I mean, let's not forget that Daniel Levy was the one who made the decision to appoint Cristian Stellini as the interim coach until the end of the season. He could have gone for Ryan Mason straight away. So Ryan Mason was deemed by Daniel Levy not good enough to take over Conte until the end of the season. But now, 29 days later, he's good enough suddenly to take over the guy who took over Conte until the end of the season. This is shambolic. We said Sunday was one of the worst performances in the club's history, the whole club's history.
So he doesn't understand the dressing room. I get all that. But at the end of the day, a team with the ability that Spurs have shouldn't perform like that. It tells you that they've lost interest. And you can say that part of the coach's job, which it is to motivate players, and have them enjoy training so that they perform and all these things. That is true. But when you see so many players so far off it, it tells you that there's no hunger, no desire, and most of all, it looks like there's not an awful lot of pride in Spurs. And that, for a professional footballer, it doesn't get any lower than that.
It's crazy, Shaq. You can kind of see why Chelsea have down tools. Yeah. Spurs still had a Champions League place to play for and was still very much in that hunt.
I think Spurs, as a squad, kind of recognised what was happening behind the scenes, how desperately poor things had been, and this is a long time coming. Listen, I think you have results like this in the game. As pros, I'm sure, I speak for everybody here, we've all suffered them. Manchester United lost 7-0 earlier this season. It's not so much about that one-off result, and certainly for Spurs, it's just how things have just slowly but surely, sometimes not that slowly, but surely just kind of regressed. And in so many ways, Spurs sitting fifth, Spurs being in contention of finishing top four, just never felt real. It just never, at no point it felt like Spurs earned that spot. It was more about everybody else's deficiencies. And this is just, again, symptomatic of that. That all of a sudden, I think this team recognized that they are not top four material. They are, in all honesty, they are not top five material. And it's the kind of rudderless nature about the club under Antonio Conte, under Stellini, has just caught up with them.
You remember Xhaka threw under the bus yesterday? He was like, Stevie was telling me he thought Spurs were going to win this game.
Well, and you know why? Did you look at those results that you just threw up? They won 2-1 at home to Brighton. Did you see that game?
Well, yes, Brighton were all over them. It was a VAR.
How Spurs won 2-1, it's just beyond comprehension. Okay. Which is why I thought Spurs would win this game. Because it was beyond.
I wonder where we were going there.
It was completely beyond comprehension that this side could win this game, which is why I thought they'd win. Because that's what they've done all season, which is the reason they're in fifth. Because they've been mince all season and they're still sitting fifth.
Oh, man.
We'll go and work that one out.
No, don't try to. Don't try to work it out.
Your brain, man.
The fun 24 hours a day.
I bet it is. I bet it is. Mario, what do you make of it all?
Now, what's the game? It was like, I mean, if you're neutral, because that's what I clear, but 20 minutes, even I was embarrassed. Like, I remember when that happened to me. Spurs did that too when I was playing at Wigan and I was the captain. And after 5-0 down was the first half. I came off, but it didn't matter if I came off because I was so embarrassed. I didn't go outside for I didn't show my face outside. I went training home for because I was that embarrassed because I knew that people would come up to you and talk to you about the game. You don't want to have that conversation because after 20 minutes, you're 5 goals down, or 21 minutes, you're down 5-0. You go, then you carry on because you're looking at the time, what you normally never do when you're playing. You never look at time. You only look at the time when you're winning. And then this is the last couple of minutes. But then you look at and you say like, okay, we're going to go in at halftime. What is the coach going to tell you at halftime? I remember when we were down, the coach said to us, okay, the first game we lost, try to play the second half and try to win that one. But you're worried because you don't know what the players are going to do. If you see how they played, how they look, and I don't want to take any credits away from Newcastle, because sometimes when things like this happen to teams, people forget that Newcastle played really well. They started the game high energy, and they played the game like people maybe were not ready for that, but Newcastle plays football now. They want to play Champions League. That's how they played that game against them. And Spurs played the game like we already playing Champions League and we just taking it easy. And before they knew there were so many goals down, they couldn't even reset it anymore.
Let me say, I honestly don't think Spurs players are at all embarrassed. I don't think they care at all. There's a point, I thought this was hilarious during the game. There's a point during the game, it's 5-0, and Romero comes to the back of somebody. I can't remember which Newcastle player it was. Romero comes right through the back of a Newcastle player who stays down, referee blows the whistle, of course. He stays down, and Romero stands over him, almost flexing. And I'm thinking, hold on, you 5 down, and you posturing, and it said so much to me at that moment that nobody, certainly he didn't, and you have to feel the rest of the Spurs dressing room feels the same, were at all embarrassed. They couldn't care less. This was about them kind of fluffing their feathers.
It's not me attitude, isn't it?
It's the most ridiculous thing I've seen as a footballer. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's the most ridiculous. If I'm a footballer and I'm 5 down in the first half, I am going about my business as sheepily as I possibly can. I have a certain amount of professional pride. I'm not standing over anybody kind of glaring and flexing. It just spoke, that moment just spoke so much to me.
Jules, you're Daniel Levy. Who are you hiring as the new coach?
I think if I'm Daniel Levy, I'm sacking myself to start with. I mean, this is not new, but we've criticised him enough on the show. I mean, okay, I take it that I agree with everything the boys have said. The players on the pitch let the club down and the fans down. Of course, Stellini was a bad appointment, but Nuno was a bad appointment. Conte was probably a bad appointment, and Mourinho was a bad appointment, and Daniel Levy made all those appointments. And we've said before that the lack of direction and the lack of identity at the club is on him. And yet he's still there, and he's not, because Joe Lewis, the owner, is the most invisible owner in the big clubs in Europe, as we've always said. It's just beyond me. Anyway, so apart from sacking myself, who do I hire? I don't know. I think Julian Nagelsmann ticks a lot of the boxes because of the identity, or certainly the kind of philosophy and the style that he would bring with him and try to implement on the pitch. And he's young and he's got really, really nice idea. Okay, it didn't really work out for him at Bayern, but look at what he did at Leipzig, which Bayern is not Spurs. Spurs is not at the level of Bayern anyway. So look more like what he did at Leipzig, for example, and I think he can replicate that at Tottenham. If you give him a good squad and if you allow him to sign maybe the players that he wants to sign without spending too much, I think there's something there maybe. But even Nagelsmann, in a way, at 34 years old, is a bit of a gamble. Would you go for someone a bit more experienced maybe? But then, they never made contact with Poch, for example. Poch would have gone back. They never even contacted him directly. They talked to Vincent Kompany. Kompany is a bit like Nagelsmann, but with even less experience. So again, maybe too early, too young, too raw. I don't know. It's a tricky situation because, and that's my last thing on it, they can't get this one wrong. After getting all the ones before wrong since Poch left, they can't get this one wrong.
Mario, who are you hiring?
I like what Jules said, but Jules said like they can't get this one wrong. It's a tough journey for them, and I think what Jules said, Nagelsmann, because I'm still not really convinced about why they moved him out so quickly. So I think it's a coach that's young but still eager, and I think they maybe have lit a fire in him. And Spurs might need that fire for someone to come in and being like, I want to prove myself. So, I think Nagelsmann is a great choice for me that I probably will look at too.
That's a big jump down, though, isn't it? From Bayern Munich to Spurs?
Yeah, but I think that's... I think the Spurs project is an interesting one for Nagelsmann. And while it's a huge step down, I think it affords Nagelsmann the kind of time and an opportunity to build for the long term with Spurs, because there's a huge rebuild that's needed. And you put faith in a young manager with these progressive ideas, and you stand by him. I like Nagelsmann at Spurs. I think that's a good fit on a number of levels.
I quite like Luis Enrique. You know, Tottenham's...
He's not
Why did you look at that?
I don't think he's going to go to Spurs, is he, though? Has he got a greater ambition?
I don't know whether he wants to go to Spurs or not. I'm just telling you that I think he would be a good fit there.
Right.
Because when I think of Spurs, it's about football. You know, the Spurs that we've seen, since, particularly under Mourinho and Conte, has been so un-Spurs-like. You know, I grew up watching a Spurs team that had a reputation of being soft because they like to play open attacking, nice football.
OK.
And I think, and I don't know this for a fact, but I think if you ask Tottenham fans, would they like to see their team winning trophies? Yes, of course they would. Would you like to see them playing football? Absolutely. They would, first and foremost, if I'm a Spurs fan, I'm going to be sick of watching defensive, counter-attacking drivel. It just seems to have been happening forever. I want a fresh approach. And I think Luis Enrique would give a fresh approach. Because you do. I mean, you look at the way all the teams that he's had. Look at Spain. I mean, how many standout world-class players does Spain have? I mean, they don't have that many, really, do they? Which is a little bit like Spurs. They've got great players or good players, but they don't have real standout players other than Kane.
They weren't that great, though, were they?
But they passed the ball, Dan.
Yeah.
And biggest problem they had is they had nothing up front. We sat here and how many times have we said that if Spain had a forward line, they could challenge? Right, so there you go. Play your football and get yourself some talent up top if you're Luis Enrique with Spurs.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.